At 4:40 in the morning, a video appears on a Facebook page belonging to a woman who is no longer able to speak for herself. The man in the video sits close to the camera. His voice doesn't rise. He pauses between certain phrases and repeats a handful of words more than once.
People are going to call me crazier and wonder why I did what I did. Deception.
He does not say what he did. Not yet. He returns instead to a single word, deception, and to the claim that he was honest from the start, that whatever comes next isn't his to carry alone.
Stop dealing in deception with people. When I met Ashley, I was openly polyamorous. I slept with women. I was upfront about it. I told her about my anger issues. I told her about my felony. I told her about prison. I told her about being controlling, violent, everything. I gave her every opportunity to walk away.
Investigators are not watching this video yet. At 4:40 in the morning, they are still searching for the woman he's talking about. This is not where her story begins. It is where his explanation does, posted before most of Rockford is awake, before her family knows anything is wrong, before a single claim in it has been tested against what investigators are able to verify. Before this documentary treats a word of it as true, it has a name to return to. Her name was Ashley Nicole Hardin. Ashley Hardin was 38 years old. She was raising 3 children in Rockford, Illinois, working full days, and coming home to a house that ran on her. She'd grown up about 45 minutes away, in Sterling, Illinois, and graduated from Sterling High School in 2002. For the 5 years before her death, she worked as a receptionist at Mercy Health, the kind of job built on small, repeated kindnesses to strangers, done the same way every day. She sang. Not casually. She had been part of 2 vocal groups, Committed and One Voice, and had sung backup for other performers over the years, the kind of commitment that means practice, rehearsal, showing up on nights when it would have been easier not to.
Built sandcastles that washed away. I made you cry when I walked away. Oh.
People who knew her describe a voice you noticed, one of those details that comes up unprompted in almost every conversation about her, regardless of who's telling it. Her cousin remembers something smaller than that. Ashley used to send texts for no reason at all. Nothing prompted, nothing needed. Just out of the blue. I love you, I'm proud of you, I hope you and the kids are okay. Things of that nature, her cousin recalled. Not a message that marks an occasion, just a woman thinking of someone, on an ordinary day, and saying so. That was Ashley Hardin, a mother who checked in on people who weren't expecting to be checked in on.
Right now, for all that's going on in the world, if you're still alive, if you're still able to work, your kids are healthy, your loved ones are healthy and safe, just be thankful, you know.
Long before any of that, there was a relationship most people around her would have described, at the time, as unremarkable. One more part of an ordinary life, no different from the job, the choir, the texts. It would take years for anyone to understand it as something else entirely. There are thousands of cases that become headlines. Far fewer are remembered as the stories of real people. If that's the kind of documentary you value, subscribe to Lethal Obsession. Now, long before anyone knew Ashley's name, there was a relationship that would change everything. The relationship began the way most relationships begin, without an audience, without a case file, without anyone marking the date. What's known publicly is this. Ashley Hardin and Rayshawn Smith had dated. He was 46, a Rockford resident, and worked at Ecolab, a manufacturing company in nearby Roscoe. Somewhere in the years that followed, the person Ashley's friends had known for most of her life started to disappear from it. Her closest friend, Kyla Trevio, would later describe what that looked like from the outside.
He pulled her from me where we didn't actually speak for 3 years, from 2017 until January of 2020, when she reached back out to me again. However,
For most of that stretch, Trevio didn't know how Ashley was doing. Not the ordinary things, not who she was seeing, not how the kids were growing, not what was happening in the small, unremarkable weeks that make up most of a friendship. Whatever Ashley was living through during those years, she was living through it without one of the closest friends in her life. And then, in January 2020, she called anyway. Rebuilding a friendship after 3 years isn't instant. It's a slow return, a conversation that starts carefully, then another, until it starts to feel like something that was never really gone, just interrupted. That Ashley made the call at all says something the record can state plainly, without needing to explain her reasons for it. In his Facebook video, posted after Ashley's death, Smith would describe the relationship differently. He said he had been upfront with her from the beginning, about wanting to be with other women, about his temper, about a criminal past he said she already knew about.
Dealing in deception with people. When I met Ashley, I was openly polyamorous. I slept with women. I was upfront about it. I told her about my anger issues. I told her about my felony. I told her about prison. I told her about being controlling, violent, everything. I gave her every opportunity to walk away.
I gave her every opportunity to walk away, he said. Public records show that past. According to the Rockford Register-Star, Smith had served time in prison following a 1995 conviction for home invasion, nearly 3 decades before he described himself, in his own words, as someone who had told her everything. Whether Ashley walked away or not isn't the question this documentary is positioned to answer from his account alone. What's documented is that by January 2020, when she reconnected with Trevio, the relationship that had pulled her away from her closest friend had already run its course. At some point before July 2022, it ended. A relationship ending is rarely where danger starts. Sometimes it's only where it becomes visible. What the public record shows next is a Saturday morning, several years into a relationship that had already broken apart, when Ashley Hardin was still living with the aftermath of it. Cole Avenue, in the hours before sunrise, was quiet. It looked like thousands of other residential streets before dawn. Nothing in the public record suggests that anyone outside Ashley's home knew the morning would become anything other than ordinary. Inside, at some point before 3:45, Ashley and her son noticed the smell of gasoline. They went outside to find the source. According to investigators' reports from the scene, milk jugs containing gasoline were found on the property. At least one had already been poured against the house. Court records would later document 3 separate containers on the property that morning. Outside, Ashley's son would later tell investigators he saw a white car parked near the house. Ashley told him to go back inside. There is a version of that morning where a mother and her son smell something wrong, walk outside to check, and find nothing. This was not that morning. Ashley did not come back inside. Ashley's son reported her missing at approximately 3:45 in the morning. The gasoline they had gone outside to investigate had already told him something was wrong. His mother's absence confirmed it. For the hours that followed, there was only a missing persons report, and a family waiting to hear something, anything, that would explain where she'd gone. What happened between the moment Ashley walked outside and the moment she was found is something this documentary can only reconstruct through what investigators were later able to establish. According to reporting on the case, it is believed Smith forced Ashley into his vehicle and drove her from the property. Investigators would eventually trace that stretch of the morning through a security camera at Ecolab, the Roscoe company where Smith worked. The footage showed a white Cadillac pulling into the lot at 2:56 a.m. Just under 40 minutes later, at 3:35, the same car pulled out again. On its own, the footage recorded nothing more than a car arriving and leaving. It would take everything investigators found afterward to understand what those 39 minutes meant. Her body was found just after 7:30 that morning, behind that same business on Rockton Road in Roscoe, roughly 4 miles from the home she had walked out of hours earlier. Court documents describe 2 gunshot wounds. They also note what is described only as significant injury to her head. This documentary will not go further than that language. The public record doesn't, and neither will this account. Near her, investigators recovered a projectile, along with 2 live rounds and several unused zip ties. Each item was documented, measured, and photographed before being collected, the beginning of a record investigators would spend months assembling. There are 2 versions of what happened to Ashley between her home and that lot behind a business in Roscoe. Neither comes from a courtroom verdict. Both come from people trying to explain the same set of hours. Ashley's mother has offered one of them, a family's explanation of why her daughter got into that car. She has said Smith intended to set the house on fire, with Ashley's children inside, and that Ashley caught him in the act. According to her mother, Ashley left with him that morning specifically to draw him away from the house, and from her children. The state has offered the other, a legal allegation describing what happened once she was in it. Prosecutors charged Smith with aggravated kidnapping, alleging that he secretly confined Ashley against her will, a family's understanding of the woman they knew. The language investigators used to describe a crime. This documentary is not going to choose between them. Neither resolves the other. Both are part of the record, and both deserve to stand exactly as they were given. What can be said without contradiction is this: however those hours began, Ashley did not choose how they ended. That is where the facts leave us, for now. 3 children woke up that Saturday without their mother. Whatever else has been established here, that is the fact underneath all of it, the one that doesn't require a source, a charge, or an account to be true. Before dawn, while the search for her was still active, Rayshawn Smith posted his video. In it, his voice remains level. He pauses between phrases. He repeats certain words more than once: deception, honesty, the past he says she already knew. The video was recorded and made public before investigators had recovered the evidence that would eventually define this case. One account was already public, recorded on a phone, posted to Facebook, available to anyone who saw it that morning. The other existed only in pieces: a car on a security camera, a scene behind a building, items collected one at a time from a stretch of pavement in Roscoe. Investigators were only beginning to assemble it. The video already existed. The investigation was only beginning. In time, those 2 records would become part of the same case. If you've stayed with Ashley's story this far, thank you. If this kind of careful, evidence-based documentary is worth your time, consider subscribing to Lethal Obsession. Because the next part of this story isn't about speculation, it's about evidence. Investigators had a body, a scene behind a business on Rockton Road, and a video posted before either had been fully processed. What they built afterward came from the vehicle Smith had driven that morning. The work didn't happen all at once. It happened the way most investigations do. One detail confirmed before the next one could be pursued. The security footage placed the car. The scene behind Ecolab placed the body. What remained was the vehicle itself, and whatever it could tell investigators about the hours in between. Each piece was documented on its own, before anyone could say with certainty how they fit together. According to police reporting, investigators recovered blood, a machete, zip ties, and Ashley's prescription medication from inside the car. None of it came from Smith's account of that morning. All of it became part of the evidence investigators documented and used to build the case against him. Smith was identified as the person investigators were looking for, and was located just before 11 that same morning, during a traffic stop in a downtown Rockford parking deck on North Main Street. He was taken into custody and charged with first-degree murder, aggravated kidnapping, and aggravated unlawful restraint. At his first court appearance, a judge ordered Smith held on a $2 million bond, ordered a mental health evaluation and barred him from any contact with Ashley's family, including her 3 minor children. It meant that even from a jail cell, whatever reach he'd once had over her family now had a legal boundary drawn around it. For weeks, the case moved the way these cases move, through filings, hearings, and procedure. A status hearing was set for the end of August, one of several court dates that marked the legal process as it gradually caught up with the investigation investigators had already been building. By October, investigators had assembled a case that left little to contest. Then, on October 12th, Smith entered a guilty plea. One account was recorded on a phone, in his own words, on his own terms. The other was entered in a courtroom, under oath, on the record. He was sentenced on December 15th to 60 years in the Illinois Department of Corrections, the maximum possible sentence for first-degree murder, and, in addition, to natural life for the firearm enhancement on that same charge. He waived his right to be present at the hearing. Ashley's family read victim impact statements to a courtroom that did not include the man they were addressing. It was the first opportunity they had to speak publicly, on the record, after months of investigation and court proceedings, not to the man who had caused their loss, but to a courtroom that would preserve their words as part of the case itself. By December, the video was still online, and the case had already moved past it. What remained wasn't a verdict on which account of that morning was true. It was a fact on the record, guilty, by his own admission. 2 accounts of the same morning had existed since July, the one Smith posted, and the one investigators assembled piece by piece from a scene, a vehicle, and everything found inside it. In a Winnebago County courtroom, on October 12, those 2 accounts finally met. The video had tried to shape the story before the evidence existed to test it. Months later, the investigation became the answer it never could. This isn't only Ashley Hardin's story. Advocates and researchers who study relationship violence have documented a pattern that echoes through cases like hers. Separation, rather than the relationship itself, often becomes the most dangerous point in it. The 3 years Ashley spent apart from her closest friend, the isolation that had to be undone before anyone around her fully understood what she'd been living with. That pattern has been documented in homes far from Cole Avenue, long before this case and since. Rayshawn Smith was sentenced to 60 years for first-degree murder, plus natural life for the firearm enhancement on that charge. He died in custody at Stateville Correctional Center on December 25, 2022, 10 days after sentencing. As of the most recent public reporting, the Will County Coroner's Office had not released a cause of death. That is the last this documentary has to say about him. What matters more is who he took from the people who are still here. A mother of 3, who spent 5 years greeting patients at the front desk of Mercy Health with the same patience she gave the people she loved. A woman who sang in 2 vocal groups and whose voice is still one of the first things people mention when they remember her. Someone whose instinct, even on days that gave her no reason to reach out, was to check on people who weren't expecting to be checked on. That's who this documentary has been trying to keep in view since Chapter 1. It's who it returns to now. Her 3 children are the ones carrying this forward. Not as a headline, not as a case that closed in December, as an absence that doesn't close, that shows up at birthdays and school events and every ordinary day a mother would have otherwise been there for. In the months after her death, the community around her tried to make sure they wouldn't carry it alone. Donations set up in their name, a place for people to help in whatever way they could. At Mercy Health, where she'd greeted patients for 5 years, the reaction was much the same. One patient wrote in her memorial guestbook that Ashley had become a friend during her visits, someone she'd talked with about faith and life outside the exam room. Another signed her name, Bobby Bacher, under a note that read, in part, "What a sweet, wonderful, and caring young lady. She will be deeply missed. I am blessed to have known her." The following spring, on what would have been her 39th birthday, Ashley's family gathered along a trail in Roscoe, near the Ecolab building where she'd once worked. The bench sits where the trail curves, close enough to the building that her old coworkers pass it on ordinary days now, the way you'd pass any other landmark on a walk you've taken 100 times. It's bright blue, impossible to miss, which seems to have been the point. Family arrived first that morning, then coworkers, then friends, in smaller groups, until the space around the bench was full. Someone sang, not a formal performance, just a friend, Travis Lane, singing Happy Birthday, the way you'd sing it for someone still in the room. The plant manager, Tom Ramsden, stood with the rest of them and said afterward that the company and its employees had simply wanted to find a positive way to honor her. Nobody standing there needed the bench, or the color, or the song explained to them. They just came, and they stayed for a while, and then the trail went back to being a trail. Ashley's closest friend, the one who'd gone 3 years without hearing her voice, and then gotten it back, said something afterward that has stayed true, regardless of anything a courtroom could add to it. I knew that he had problems, but I never would have thought in my wildest dreams that he would play God and decide whether she lives or if she's gone. Ashley Hardin was 38 years old, with 3 children and a voice people still talk about, and a habit of texting people out of nowhere just to tell them she loved them. Whatever this documentary has been able to establish about the last hours of her life, that's not where it should end. It should end where her life actually was. Ordinary, full, and hers. Interrupted, not defined, by what was done to her. That's the loss underneath all of it, not what happened to the man who killed her. What should have kept happening to her? The texts, the birthdays, the songs, and didn't get the chance to. If Ashley's story is one worth remembering, consider subscribing to Lethal Obsession. Every documentary here is built to remember the person before the crime, not just the crime itself. There's a version of Ashley that exists outside police reports and court documents entirely. One that was recorded on her own phone, in her own words, months before any of this happened. This documentary began with someone else trying to explain Ashley's story. It ends by giving her the final word instead.
All right. Tried to find some quiet time. I don't know if these kids are going to let me, but just wanted to answer the challenge of Janet Salter, just encouraging folks to be thankful right now for all that's going on in the world. If you're still alive, if you're still able to work, your kids are healthy, your loved ones are healthy and safe, just be thankful. Could have been us. Some people are way worse off than we are, so just stay thankful. All right. Tragedies are commonplace, all kinds of diseases, people are slipping away, economy's down, people don't get enough pay, but as for me, all I can say is thank you, Lord, for all you've done for me. Yeah. Who's next?